Welcome, welcome everybody to our City of Farmers Branch Council meeting for Tuesday, September 19th. First up on our agenda is our invocation and pledges, which will be led by Councilman Baird.
Please rise. Let's pray. Oh God, we're thankful for this night that we can gather together in a free country, in a free state. We're thankful for our residents. We're thankful for the members of this council, and we're thankful for all those who work for the city to get the job done that needs to be done. We pray for wisdom tonight, and we pray that your guidance would be on us all. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas,
one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you.
Okay, so next up is item E1, which is a presentation of the Employee of the Month Award to Redwan Asafi. So the City of Farmers Branch has a strong culture that nurtures respect, where we value everyone's opinion and acknowledge their perspective. We strive for excellence and constantly look for ways to do our very best in everything that we do. We believe in accountability, we care, and trust. These are the city's core values. This is our culture, which is REACT. The leadership of the City of Farmers Branch appreciates the efforts, dedication, and time our employees put into their jobs. The city has a program to recognize employees for depicting these values. We appreciate and recognize our employees' hard work and efforts. Tonight, we recognize Redwan Afasi as our Employee of the Month for the month of August. Redwan is a hardworking member of our Innovation and Technology Department. He originally joined the city in 2013 as an intern. You get the gray hair as an intern? Okay. For the Information Services Department, and then joined us again in July of last year as a part-time system support specialist. His unwavering dedication and commitment as a part-time system support specialist have elevated him to an invaluable member of our city's workforce. Red consistently goes above and beyond his work requirements, promptly addressing technical issues and demonstrating exceptional follow-up skills, ensuring that our operations continue to run seamlessly. His exemplary professionalism and unwavering dedication have not gone unnoticed, earning admiration from both peers and directors alike. Red, your contributions to the smooth functioning of our city, whether dealing with a minor hardware glitch or tackling time-consuming issues, are deeply appreciated. And we all want to thank you for your steadfast dedication.
Hello. Steven Schweiger, Technical Operations Manager for the IT Department. First off, congratulations, Red.
Thank you.
We call him Red for short. Extremely dedicated, hardworking, usually the first guy in the office. No task too small, no task too large. He's very eager to learn, very proud to have you on the team. Very high energy and great positivity. You're a genuinely good human being, which is rare these days. He has a little bit of a unique background I'd like to share with the group. He's from Casablanca, Morocco. He lived in France for several years. He speaks 4 different languages, which is incredible. I can barely speak English most of the time. He lived in New York for a while, and between IT stints, he inspected bridges. So if you've ever been to New York City and you've seen Manhattan Bridge or George Washington he's the guy that was inspecting those, which is incredible because I can barely hang my Christmas lights, let alone climb on a bridge. So it's very courageous, and I know they have incredible weather there. So anyways, I just want to say thanks, and I know our staff appreciates you, and I know our department and our team does. So
Thank you.
good job.
So we have this beautiful statuette, if you will, that says React Employee of the Month, August 2023, Redwan Asafi. So let me present that to you.
Thank you, sir. I would like to thank everyone for this honor. It's a privilege to be working here with you, with the beautiful people, in a beautiful place. And once again, thank you for the support and thank you for believing in me. Thank you.
All right, next up are items of community interest.
Thank you, Mayor. And again, congratulations, Redwan. It's great, fantastic honor. Items of community interest for our council meeting September 19th, 2023. Our new event center in the historical park now has a name. Venue 1842 reflects the year our community was first settled. The building will blend our strong heritage and a modern design and will be perfect for your special events in 2024. Construction is now well underway. Now's the time to gather up all of your expired or unused paint, pesticides, batteries, and oils. Take them to our next household hazardous waste collection event this Saturday, September 23rd, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Sinilac Service Center. That's on Sinilac Drive. National Night Out here in Farmers Branch will be Tuesday night, October 3rd. It's a chance to get to know your neighbor and meet your local first responders. If you'd like to host a get-together on your block, call 972-919-9304 to register. Brookhaven Country Club neighbors need to know that the club will host a community meeting on Thursday night, October 5th, to lay out plans for the National Pickleball Tournament scheduled here the first week of November. All club members and neighbors are encouraged to attend at Brookhaven Country Club. It'll be 6 p.m. in the main ballroom. The MetroCrest Chamber of Commerce will host a mayor's forum at 11:30 on Thursday, October 12th, including Mayor Lynn and the mayors of Addison and Carrollton. You can register now at metrocrestchamber.com. And get ready for another tree giveaway. 1 tree per household, and the trees must be reserved in advance. Starting September 28th, go to the Sustainability and Public Health page on our website. Of course, that's farmersbranchtx.gov. The giveaway will be Saturday, October 14th, for Farmers Branch residents only. Our historical park will host an early trick-or-treating event on Tuesday, October 17th. From 4 to 6 p.m., bring your school-age kiddos to experience Booville at no charge. Councilman Omar Roman will host a town hall for residents of District 1 on Wednesday, October 18th. From 6 to 8 p.m. at the Branch Connection, he'll discuss citywide topics as well as those specific to District 1. All District 1 residents are invited. Get your tickets now for this year's Bloom and Bluegrass Festival, October 20th and 21st. We're celebrating 14 years of the best bluegrass with major headliners, again, including Ricky Skaggs and Del McCurry. Call the box office at 972-521-8644. The Children's Health Star Center Outdoor Ice Rink will not open for this year, the 2023 season. Road construction will prohibit the seasonal attraction. However, indoor ice skating will still be available at the Star Center. You can call 214-432-3131 for more information on that. Farmers Branch is attracting attention for our plans to build a solar farm on an abandoned landfill. WFAA-TV and Spectrum News have both aired stories on the concept. You can see them on our Facebook page. Construction on the solar farm should start next year. And as always, you can sign up for City e-News at farmersbranchtx.gov. Mayor?
Thank you, Jeff. I also want to add to what happened this past weekend. Councilman Jackson and myself had the good fortune to enter the City of Grapevines, the mayor's Grape Stomp, which was on Saturday morning. Didn't know what I was in for, but they had 16 teams or 16 cities with mayors and council representatives that had signed up. I'm happy to report that Councilman Jackson and I won Best Teamwork Award. We actually came in fourth in the Grape Stomp. We each stomped for a minute each, and that was a long minute with your feet running up and down. So, but it was a lot of fun. We represented our city very well. So thank you to our neighbors in Grapevine for that. It was a really fun time. Next up is our report on study session items. We had our study session this afternoon at 4 o'clock, and several things were discussed. Councilman Jackson brought up questions regarding item H6 to clarify the renewal of contracts for 3 consultants that the city has. We had discussion about that, and that is slated to be on consent agenda here in a bit. And then Councilman Roman had questions about H5 and the completion of the trail linking the DART station to the Campion Trail. And that should be done by the end of next fiscal year. There was also a brief presentation on the proposed fiscal year 23-24 budget. And then we received a biennial update from our sustainability committee on things that they've been working on. So that was our study session. For more information on that, you go to farmersbranchtx.gov and see it online. Next up is our consent agenda. Any comment?
Mayor, I'd like to request to move H6, H7, and H8 out of consent into the regular session.
Okay, so we will move H6, H7, and H8 to J5, 6, and 7. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda minus H6, 7, and 8.
Mayor, I'll motion to approve the consent agenda, moving items H6, H7, and H8 to the regular agenda.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and second. If you would please indicate your vote. Very good. Motion passes. Next up is our public hearing. Item I1, conduct a public hearing and consider adopting ordinance number 3826, approving a specific use permit for a commercial amusement development on approximately 1.55 acres located at 2330 Jet Street, and take appropriate action.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Sarah Bergman, lead planner. The applicant is requesting approval of a new pickleball entertainment venue to be located at the southwest corner of Jet Street and Denton Drive. The site is developed with an existing warehouse building that was constructed in the early 70s and is currently vacant. The applicant is proposing to renovate this building with 6 new indoor pickleball courts, an indoor bar and restaurant area, and to add 4 outdoor courts on the southern portion of the site. Additional outdoor dining and seating areas are proposed along Jet Street and Denton Drive. This site is Zone Plan Development PD 86, or the city's station area code, and any indoor or outdoor commercial amusement use requires approval of a specific use permit from City Council. PD 86 has specific requirements for landscaping, parking, and streetscape improvements, and the applicant is proposing to meet all of them. This includes providing 19 new street trees, 19% site open space, and a total of 55 new parking spaces. In terms of streetscape improvements, the PD does call for specific cross-sections on every public street within PD 86. And so this site has frontage on 3 streets. That's Jet Street, Denton Drive, and Valley View Lane. And the PD calls out items like sidewalks, on-street parking, street trees, lighting, and outdoor pedestrian elements. And so you can see on the screen along Jet Street, the applicant is proposing to add a new sidewalk and on-street parking, as well as street trees and lighting. Along Valley View Lane, a widened sidewalk is proposed and new street trees matching the development to the west. And then along Denton Drive, the PD does call for a reduction in lanes from 4 lanes to 2. And the addition of on-street parking. The applicant has proposed to meet this requirement, but given the location of the site, the proximity to the intersection, staff had some concerns about traffic flow there. If the applicant were to construct these improvements at this time, the street would narrow from 4 lanes to 2 just for the site and then widen out again at the intersection. And so rather than construct the improvements at this time, the applicant has agreed to enter into an escrow agreement so that that street section could be completed at a future time. The escrow agreement will require approval from City Council, and so that would be on an upcoming agenda if this request is approved. Although this is an existing building, the applicant is proposing several enhancements to the facade, and this includes new windows, canopies, lighting, and paint. You can see a comparison here of the existing building on the left, and then the proposed elevations on the right. In addition, the applicant is proposing 2 murals on the building, one along Jet Street and one along Denton Drive. Murals are encouraged in PD 86, and the site is also within the city's Arts and Culture District. This proposal is consistent with both the Farmers Branch 2045 Comprehensive Plan and the IH35E Corridor Vision Study, and public notifications were mailed to all surrounding property owners within 200 feet. And on August 28th, the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this request. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is here as well.
Thank you, Sarah. Council, any questions? Councilman Merritt?
Yes. Thank you, Sarah, for the presentation. 2 questions. First, I did not see, and I spoke to city management about this, so perhaps the applicant can address the plan of operations, kind of what the hours of operation will be, when will they open, when will they close, how many days a week will they be open, those type of things. That I did not see that in the materials provided.
That's correct. That wasn't in the packet, but the applicant can speak to that.
Okay, so that's the first question. And then the second question is, could you elaborate a little bit more about the proposed escrow agreement and how that is taking shape? And then secondarily, how that will come back, as you've already mentioned, to council for another action, and what would that action be? So some clarity about what we would be agreeing to for this escrow agreement.
Absolutely. The applicant has provided a cost estimate for the improvements that are required along Denton Drive. That estimate has been accepted by our Public Works Department, and it totals $24,000 as shown here. If this request is approved at the October 10th council meeting is when we're anticipating the escrow agreement would come forward. Our legal team has drafted that. It's been sent to the property owner for review, and so we're working through some of those details. But if it's approved, the applicant would escrow the funds at, I think it's 10 days after the agreement is approved. And then those would be held for a period of 20 years, during which time the city would be responsible for construction of the roadway. And we would likely do that at the point when either the property to the north here develops, or if we see the corner redevelop, basically a time when a larger section can be constructed. If the city doesn't construct within 20 years, the funds would be returned to the developer.
Okay, very good, thank you. And then will the applicant address the hours of operation, perhaps?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mario, come on up. Please state your name and address.
Will do. G'day, Mario Simic, 6175 Vickery Boulevard in Dallas. Councilman Merritt, as things stand, we plan to operate Monday through Wednesday, 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. and then Thursday through Sunday, 6 a.m. till midnight is the plan of operations.
All right, thank you very much. And employees, do you have an estimate on how many employees that you will be needing to staff that time frame, those time frames?
Yeah. So we've got it phased out. So in phase one, we anticipate about 35 to 40, and then as the operation grows, we can go up to 60, 65 employees.
Very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate the information.
You bet.
And you're okay with the proposal that the city has put together with the escrow agreement?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. I have no other questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions? No? Seeing none. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. I don't have anybody signed up to speak to it, so I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'd be happy to make a motion to first close the public hearing and then move to approve ordinance number 3826 as presented.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to close public hearing and approve the ordinance as presented. If you would, please indicate your vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Can't wait to see you open. All right. Next up is item I2, conduct a public hearing and consider adopting ordinance number 3818 to rezone approximately 0.54 acres located at 2877 LBJ Freeway, described as lots 1 and 2, Block 1, Jack Gay subdivision, from Office District 0, Office District O, to Local Retail District 2, LR2, and take appropriate action.
Thank you, Mayor. Council members, the subject property is located at 2877 LBJ Freeway. As you can see on the screen, this is near the intersection of Josie Lane. It's about 200 feet west of Josie Lane, with Villa Creek Drive to the north and then the frontage road of LBJ to the south. The property is currently undeveloped. The property is zoned, as the mayor mentioned earlier, as an office district, and the applicant is requesting that this be rezoned to a local retail 2. This property is surrounded, or actually it's been zoned actually office since 1969, as you can see on the screen as well. There's one small piece that's considered local retail 2 at that corner of Josie and LBJ. Over time, the adjacent properties have changed to allow for retail uses and retail zoning properties. The building that did reside on this subject property was demolished in 2009, and it has remained undeveloped since that time. So we all kind of understand the difference with these zone districts. Office is intended for administrative and professional office uses, not retail activity. On the flip side, local retail 2 permits a number of retail and service type uses. By rezoning this property, it would by all means expand upon the number of allowed uses. Staff has provided a table within your packet comparing the uses that are permitted by right today under office versus the local retail 2 district. Given that the property is situated along a major highway and that it provides transition between the existing apartments to the north and the highway that's to the south of it. Not to mention also that the properties surrounding it are also zoned LR2. Overall, our professional opinion is that this item is consistent with our comprehensive plan. But if the property was to stay office, it still is consistent with our comprehensive plan, regardless of whether this gets rezoned to office or not. or to local retail or not. The only challenge that I see about this particular property is the lot size. So given that the lot size is only 0.52 acres in size, depending on what is built and how the property is used, there would need to be room for parking, access, landscaping. So keep in mind, in these types of zoning requests, there is no site plan to review. There's no landscape plan. There's no elevations. This all boils down to if the city wants to allow these uses to expand to LR2. So again, the use table we provided in the report outlines these differences. On August 4th, notification letters were sent to the surrounding property owners. We did place 2 zoning notification signs outside on the site, and we did notice also in the Dallas Morning News. We have not received any written correspondence related to this particular item. On August 14th, the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of the zoning amendments by a vote of 4-3. And I will continue to stand for questions. We do have the applicant here that would like to speak to the council as well.
Council, anybody have questions?
Mayor, if the applicant is present, could we hear from the applicant and then we could
Absolutely.
direct questions to either staff or the applicant?
Mayor, Council, my name is Maxwell Fisher with Zone Dev, 2502 Grandview Drive, Richardson, Texas, 75080. I'm representing Amir Makani. We are requesting a retail zoning. This particular property, as you know, it has been zoned office a long time. The office zoning doesn't align with market realities. No one would build an office. There wouldn't be a ROI that would work to get money back on your investment under the office district. The site's buried. There's retail zoning around it. The site's very limited in size. It also has double frontage, so we have double setbacks. There's a lot of things that limit any sort of appreciable office building that would be allowed under the current office zoning. So we are asking for retail zoning. I did have an opportunity to listen to the work session online, and I do understand there's concern because the LR2 district allows for vehicle maintenance and tobacco store. And we have no intent in doing those things. However, we are asking for LR2 zoning. We think it's an appropriate use or zoning district. It aligns with the comp plan and staff and majority vote P&Z recommended support. That is our request. If the council would approve the LR2 as proposed, that would be our preference. In the event that the council is not comfortable with that, the LR1 zoning district would also be appropriate. The LR1 zoning district would eliminate tobacco store as a permitted use. It would eliminate vehicle maintenance as a permitted use. However, it would still allow for retail use. We're envisioning something like, we've talked to a couple sandwich shops, so we're looking at a restaurant here and possibly a convenience, retail convenience type store on the subject property. Those are some of the uses until we have the appropriate zoning that's retail of some kind, no one's going to sign a letter of intent to move forward on the property under the current office zoning. So let me make sure I've covered everything here. Under the LR1 also, fuel cells would not be allowed. One of the things that has also been discussed is that there's some people want the adjacent auto repair possibly to be removed. And we would, we've reached out to that owner, and that owner all their income comes from that. They're a widow or a widowee, and all their income comes from that business. And so there's a little concern there, but we'll continue to pursue that potentially. But the point being that is in the event in the future that we would ever propose something other than that's allowed in LR1, we would have to come back before and go through the same process. We'd submit exhibits, and it would all have to be evaluated by the council. So I've talked long enough. I'll stop there and be happy to answer any questions.
Excuse me, council, anybody have questions for the applicant? Councilman Jackson?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. I'm sorry, tell me your name again.
Maxwell Fisher.
Maxwell, thank you very much. So I'm a little bit uncomfortable with this because it's kind of an open slate. That's in my observation, a very vulnerable piece of property and kind of area. There's a lot of, I'll call it undesirable pedestrian traffic that comes in from the highway and across the highway where the wrong type of business or the right type of business is going to attract even more of that and create another one of our front door issues that we're having now. And so my discomfort in supporting this request is that we don't know what's going to go there. We don't know what you want to put there. And we don't have an opportunity to evaluate that in changing a zoning ordinance that stood for decades. So if I had a little bit more assurance of what your plan was to put there, I feel like I'd have a little bit more, to go on to support the request.
Right, and I think that if with the LR1 district, we would not only eliminate a number of the uses I think you would be concerned with.
Sure.
And I think that's the kind of the nature, or that's how the LR1 is designed, is to limit uses that might be allowed in LR2 that may not be appropriate at this particular location.
Right.
So is that what you're getting at?
It is.
or-
Again, it kind of opens up, just a lot of different business types that we may not necessarily feel that it's a good fit there, particularly if you're not able to secure the property next door on the other side and to see more of a plan for that strip through that area. And if I'm not mistaken, is it customary for council to consider a zoning change request without some type of solid plan of what's going to go there? Is that common, that we're making that decision sort of without knowing, with a little more certainty?
Yeah, I mean, both. This is the way we're doing this right now is not as common. I can honestly say that. I mean, we do a lot of plan developments, which plan developments are going to automatically require site plan, elevation, landscape plan. So you get the details.
Right.
You know what those uses are going to be. It allows the public to know those uses. It allows you to know those uses, and we really get to nail everything out. This isn't unheard of to do zoning this way, but it's not how we've typically done here in Farmers Branch. At least the requests haven't been
Sure.
for straight zoning.
Sure.
But it isn't to say that that's, illegal or anything like that. This is
No, understood.
absolutely, yeah. Hopefully
It's
that
an
answers your
interesting,
question,
it's an interesting diversity of businesses and establishments along that strip.
Right.
A tire shop, empty lot,
yeah. Absolutely.
Western wear, record store, office building, old hotel,
Right.
right behind it, apartments and a college and some more commercial, office space. So it's really interesting, and I think for me, I would just like to have a better picture of what you're wanting to go there.
And usually a plan development allows for that. A plan development allows for somebody to come in with those details and those specific uses. So there's a little bit more customization that goes along with that. Like we had mentioned earlier, the LR1, yeah, it does. It's more restrictive than the LR2. But
Takes
again,
out gas station,
it
tobacco
does.
shop.
We weren't able, obviously, the table that everyone has right now doesn't include the LR1
Right.
column. So there wasn't an opportunity for anybody to review that or look at what those uses are.
Right.
So at this moment, at this time, it would be up to council to decide if you guys wanted to do something like that or continue the case and allow us to come back with that information. That's always an option as well.
Okay. I'll see what other questions council members have before.
Go ahead.
Marco, can you speak a little bit more to what LR1 will allow? I mean, I hear what it won't. It's taking away some undesirable things, but what will it allow?
thank you. That was quick. Yeah, so with LR1, we would be able to do, I mean, there's a laundry list of items that would be permitted by right. You would still be able to do like the general retail stores, travel agencies, restaurants, absolutely. Drive-through restaurants, that would require SUPs in something, in an LR1. So again, yeah, it's nice to be, it sounds like it's hailing outside, but, and I have a new car, so, yeah, no, I'm just joking. Yeah, it's,
Not anymore.
I do, actually. Yeah, it's got me concerned. Yeah, so there are a laundry list of uses for sure. Definitely nothing to the extent that LR2 again is meant to be a little bit more intense as opposed to the LR1. So again, we can absolutely provide a list to the council that would provide every single use that's permitted by right. I'm trying to think off the top of my head here if there's anything
Yeah,
else.
I think
that's
for
worth-
one, I'd like to see that. I'm not opposed to a little bit more restrictive, but I don't want it to just be open as one of our gateways in.
Understood.
If I may add, I do, and we're fine with, I totally get it. We don't want to expand what's there as far as vehicles, maintenance and allow uses that are just, and we're not wanting to do that. We're really wanting to limit to retail and restaurant in nature. But understanding LR2 would just open it up. But I will say, at least some sort of retail zoning, in my professional opinion, is appropriate here. It's on the highway. It has retail zoning around it. There's no single family. If retail's not appropriate here of some kind, where is it appropriate? So I would add that.
Understood. Marcos, let me ask a question. So I think one of the things that I've heard from residents is they don't want more vehicles parked around the area. And I think there is some fear that depending on what is going in there, that an extension of the tire shop could sort of morph to this property where we would have more vehicles just parked, running or not, which is not a good scene. Okay, so that's number one. But if LR2 is granted, then all of the items that are permitted by right are allowed with the property, not with this owner, but with the property, correct?
That is absolutely correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, so
Yes,
that
sir.
does include massage business, mortuary or funeral home, which I'm not sure is big enough to accommodate that, tobacco stores, and vehicle maintenance. Those are all allowed by right as part of LR2. And I think there's a little bit of a fear here that if LR2 is granted, you might say they're going to do one thing, but the designation is on the property. And so some other owner could come in and say, it's LR2, we're going to put in vehicle repair store or some type of maintenance center or massage parlor. I
No.
shouldn't say massage, a massage business.
Right.
So we can't exclude those from LR2 without changing the ordinance. We can't, correct?
Absolutely. You are correct, Mayor.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I think we need to be very specific for what it is that we're wanting to approve here.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And zoning is a discretionary act. I mean, it's not ministerial. This is purely, discretionary in the sense. So,
So, in a perfect world, I would one day like to see the tire store go away, have that area cleaned up. Then that spot, in my mind, sort of opens up for maybe a gas station, not vehicle repair, but just to get gas on that end piece. because this is an oddball piece of property,
Yes, sir.
if you will. So,
My client shares your vision.
okay.
But at the same time, under the current zoning, we're sort of hamstrung. We're paying taxes and we can't, no one's interested we're not interested in building an office building and there's no tenants interested. And retailers won't sign up under the current zoning.
So we could do the one, and eventually you guys come back, if you attained the other piece of property, and rezone all of it to the two, to allow for that.
That's,
For the gas
that would be
station.
But if you grant LR1, then they'll have those rights without any of the elimination of any of those uses that might be undesirable. The best way to do this would be a planned development, which allows you to customize it, which allows to eliminate any undesirable uses and provide some flexibility in the other area regulations. But that hasn't come forward as a planned development district.
Yeah,
And so-
yeah.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
Excuse me.
Yeah, sorry.
Excuse me. So it's been advertised for LR2. If LR1 is more restrictive and less dense, then technically you could grant the change of zoning to LR1. But if there are any uses in LR1 that you don't like, don't want, you don't have the opportunity, unless it's a planned development district, to exclude those uses. Now, should an opportunity come up tonight that you decide that, well, we want him to go back and maybe rethink about a planned development, or you want the staff to come back with more information on LR1 uses, you can continue the public hearing on this matter to a date time certain on this case. That'll avoid us having to pay the cost of having re-advertised in the newspaper. So those are some options for you.
Apologize for interrupting. If I could add, Mayor, based on what he said. So the problem with the plan development right now, and I do plan developments all day long. I think they're excellent zoning tools. I'd say that's 90% of what I work on any day in any city. In this particular case, we don't have the corner tied up, and so we can't just come up with a plan that requires all these exhibits because we don't have a plan, we don't have an operator lined up yet, and so we just couldn't do. We don't want to spend those pursuit costs to do that. We can go to an LR1, and I think that if you give staff an opportunity to come back and present to you LR1 versus LR2, I think you'll see a lot of the uses that you're concerned about are eliminated by going with LR1. And if we just give us some time to do that, and then that way we're not starting over at square one and not presenting something that we just don't know. We don't have the level of detail at this point.
So did you have in mind a date to start development?
We don't have that date specific
that far.
because, no, not
Okay.
that far. However, we would like, in order for us to move forward with any retail opportunities, we do need to have some sort of retail zoning. And so my request for you would be to put us on the next agenda and have staff come back with an LR1 request, if that's possible.
So that's what I was going to see if staff can provide council with what the LR1 allowable uses are, so council can study that. And if we table this till, is the first meeting, which is actually the 10th of October, is that adequate time?
For us, it is. For staff, yes,
Okay.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Then why don't we do that? And that way, everybody can have proper information, have time to review it.
It's no problem.
So I'll entertain a motion for tabling.
Motion to continue the public hearing to that date time, sir.
Motion.
Mayor, I'll motion to continue the public hearing at a future date on October 10th
There you go.
and table this issue for further study.
Very good.
Question perhaps to Marcos and to city management. How does this addressment of broadening the scope from LR2 to include LR1 address our peers on the Planning and Zoning Commission because they won't have had the same opportunity. And I understood, Pete, you addressed that to a degree. If we send it all the way back, we would have to republish, and it would take a cycle through P and Z to go through that. Marcos, do you have any heartburn with that particular approach?
No, sir, because again, it's less restrictive. As long as it's going more restrictive.
More
As long as it's going
restrictive.
more restrictive, I apologize, more restrictive.
Okay,
Then, yeah, we wouldn't necessarily need to go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
thank
in
you
that
for the
case.
feedback, so
Yes.
I'm comfortable.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. A motion and second. If everybody would. Do we still use the device or do we show it? Yes. Okay. If you would, mark your ballot. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Next up is I3, conduct a public hearing to consider adopting a property tax rate of 0.569 cents and take appropriate action.
Mayor, Council, Tammy Zimmerman, Director of Finance. We went over these slides upstairs in our study session. I'm going to be hanging out with you for the next 4 agenda items. And tonight is the culmination of 9 months of budget discussions. And I appreciate all the hard work that was put in by staff, by the mayor, the council, for the guidance, vision, and direction and setting the priorities for next year's work plan. And we have reached the end zone. We'll go with another football reference real quick. We have tonight the public hearing on the tax rate. We previously had a public hearing on the maximum tax rate, and tonight's proposed tax rate that's been put into the proposed budget is less than that maximum. So we are required with Truth in Taxation and Dallas County Tax Office that we follow in this order of approval, first having the public hearing where we open and close for any citizen comments and adopting the tax rate. And then we'll go on to the second, which is ordinance number 3814. We're amending our current year, fiscal year 22 and 23 budget, and adopting the proposed 23-24 budget and strategic plan. We'll have, on our third item on the agenda, the ratification of the property tax revenue increase with the adoption of the budget. And then finally, we have on our fourth step, the ordinance 3815 to accept the certified Dallas County Appraisal District tax rolls and levy the tax rate. And we talked upstairs, and we've been showing our slides on how we came up with our proposed budget, and part of that was advance funding. We determined when we were putting together the 23-24 budget that we would have some additional sales tax revenue, our interest income revenue, some unused expenditures, and then there was a sale of an old firehouse property that this would provide about a $6 million surplus, and we discussed during the budget process using this excess to advance our capital improvement projects. So some of these are one-time improvements. For instance, $1.3 million for our Justice Center, and we have additional funding for street rehabilitation, our Parks Master Plan, Bellwood median enhancements, Parkfield light replacements, traffic signal rehabs, trail improvements. There was increased funding for a patrol vehicle, and there was some additional expenses related to the 911. So Those are now put into our revised fiscal year 22-23 budget, which will get all approved together with our proposed 23-24 budget. It's a combo. So I'd like to request that we open and conduct the public hearing for adoption of the tax rate.
Thank you. So we will open the public hearing. I don't have anybody signed up to speak to this. Is there anybody here that would like to make comment on the budget? Seeing none. I will close the public hearing. And council, any further discussion on budget? Do we have to make motion to close public hearing on this?
Just do a motion to close.
Okay, I move to close the public hearing.
Mayor, I'll be happy to second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor of closing the public hearing? Say aye. Show of hands. Okay. Oh, you got that up there. I knew she did that fast.
She's that fast.
Okay. Public hearing is closed. Thank you. Council, any further discussion on budget? Councilman Jackson.
Mayor, I'd just like to say, Tammy and team, thank you for all of the hard work. I know you guys spent a lot of late nights up here. I got emails from you when I didn't expect them, very late at night. And, and just the way that the budget was laid out over the last number of months was very smart. It was very easy to follow. And it made it a much more efficient process for me this year to understand what was in front of us. I just wanted to say thank you very much for all that work.
Thank you. We're already starting the planning for next year's budget, so.
Just take tonight off when we're done, right? To catch your breath.
Any comments? Great. I think I want to thank you all for your efforts. Everybody has worked very, very hard on this. And again, to be able to continue to provide the level of service that we're providing to Farmers Branch residents and be able to provide a 2-cent property tax rate reduction, that's huge. That is the largest property tax rate reduction in 40 years. And so that is something that will benefit everybody here in the city, not just owners of single-family homes, but owners of businesses, multifamily complexes, anybody who owns property in the city. And so that's the true and fair way to share this with everybody who resides or does business here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any other comments? Councilman Roman.
I think it's important to note to the public just the difference that we've had in last year's budget presentation to this one. Many people don't have the opportunity to sit in our shoes and have to make these really big decisions. And I can just say that this process this year compared to last was much, much better. If you go back to early conversations that we've had about the budget, all the way going back to April, that's when we started to have the discussions. This last year, we were handed a very large packet of 300, 400, 500 pages in August, and we were expected to make a decision in about a month and 3 weeks. And so that process that we've practiced this year, I think, has proven to be a much better way of approaching things. It's allowed us to have ample time to discuss many of the hot topic issues that come across every single budget cycle. Now, I will say that there's only been one thing out of this entire budget that I've not been very happy with, and that's been the media specialist position. And I've brought that up many times, and it seems that I'm the only one with the objection to that, but I trust the rest of the council members and their decision that this is a good decision for the city moving forward. And so, and so it's been a very collaborative process. Now, I will say that this media specialist position, wherever the chief is he hiding behind the column? Because there he is. I have some very high expectations for this media specialist position that's coming. But I trust the rest of the council members, and this is how you make decisions, despite maybe not agreeing on every single matter that is presented. This is how decisions are made for the betterment of the city. So thank you, Ben, and the rest of the team for all of your hard work and for presenting things in the way that you did so that it's easier for us and the public to follow along and make the best decision for the city.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay. Next up is J1. Consider adopting ordinance 3814, approving and adopting a budget plan for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2023 and ending September 30th, 2024, providing that expenditures for said fiscal year shall be made in accordance with such budget, appropriating and setting aside the necessary funds out of the general and other revenues of the City of Farmers Branch for said fiscal year for the maintenance and operation of various departments and for various activities and improvements of the city, appropriating the various amounts required for such budget, amending the 2022-2023 adopted budget, and take appropriate action.
So again, we started this process back in February. And so it'll, before you know it, it's going to be January. We're going to start this process a little bit earlier next year. But we had our strategic planning session, which affirmed the city's mission. We put out a strategy map with our critical business outcomes. And that was used in guiding our departments and putting together the proposed budget. And we have pieces of the budget that was presented to council. We had great discussions. Everyone had an input on what their priorities were. And we've had several meetings where we've gone over the questions and the topics that were key to putting this all together. Staff, again, I thank them for the late hours and the flexibility. Again, it was a huge team effort, so appreciative of that. And part of a big piece of that puzzle was mentioning again that we are a service industry. We provide several services, 24-hour police, fire, code enforcement, our fleet and our facilities, our human resources, our finance, public works, parks. It's a large portion of our budget cost, 53.9%. But in comparison to other cities that are around us in North Dallas, we are a lower ratio when it compares to our general fund budget. So that is all I have for this particular agenda item. And if there was any questions that I can answer before we go and hopefully approve our budget.
And you're going to get me what we asked and talked about
Correct.
upstairs.
Yes.
Which is the difference of the independent contractors out of general fund versus employees.
So yes, so we've been kind of dividing it up. Some of the contract services aren't, they're more professional services that we can separate out for the general fund. So the items that are on later in this agenda, that is in your hotel motel fund, not your general fund. So it's a little bit of a different comparison. But yes, I can provide those numbers for you.
Correct, but it wasn't specific to hotel motel. It was specific to things like parks and recs and where we contract out for other services.
Correct. And so we'll go through each department. For instance, sustainability has a particular contract labor cost related to their recycling. So we can go through there and get those numbers for you.
Any other questions? Councilman Merritt.
Tammy, thank you again. I know others have thanked you for the work and the team that has gone into this. I just want to make sure that we're clear that through this particular adopting of this ordinance, we're approving the 23-24 budget, which we're all aware, but we're also amending the 22-23 budget with adjustments that have been factored in as we reach the closure of this particular fiscal year. So there are two actions wrapped up in this
Yes.
particular ordinance, in this particular movement. But I think overall, I think we have positioned ourselves very well with the funds that we have. We're addressing the needs that the city has related to funding, appropriate resources, and staffing levels, et cetera. We've had a good conversation after this meeting today, the study session meeting, so I thank you for that time. So I think we're in a very good spot with all the factors of the revenue sources and our expenditures, and positioning ourselves to do the capital improvement projects that we need to do, not only closing out 22-23, but moving into 23-24. So I just want my peers along the council know all of these factors, but we want to make sure that the residents and the community knows that we're balancing, as Tammy's already said, two budgets in this, but we're already planning on the third budget moving forward. So there's a lot of moving parts here. So once again, thank you for all the work. And I think we're in a very good space at the moment with the revenue sources, as I mentioned a moment ago, that we're not having to make super hard choices right now. And I appreciate not having those delicate and sometimes challenging discussions. But at some point, council members will have to deal with that, whether it's this council next year or beyond. We'll have to grapple with that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councilman Baird?
I just want to say thank you to you and all your staff, and to the city manager for all your hard work. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move. I'm going to move to approve ordinance 3814 as presented. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Thank you. This will be a roll call vote. Councilman Roman?
Yes.
Councilman Baird?
No.
Councilwoman Bennett?
Yes.
Councilman Jackson?
Yes.
Councilman Merritt?
Yes.
Budget pass, or motion passed 4-1. Next up is J2. Consider approving Resolution 2023-173, ratifying the property tax revenue increase reflected in the fiscal year 2023-24 budget, and take appropriate action.
So we've just approved the budget, so we're required now to take a vote ratifying the property tax revenue increase that was reflected in the budget. So there's not much that I can say on this one.
Nope. Council, is there any questions about this?
Tammy, do we have a number or what that increase is?
Yes, so we provided in the very front cover page of the budget, we are required with one of the Senate bills in font size and their calculations to present what they considered the increase. We have shown on the second page a reconciliation where we take out all of our items that are under protest and court cases, and we've taken out any of the TIF funding as well. So the increase is 2.7 million is what that reconciled to.
And is that, can we do the simple math between 2.7 and 186 and some change and figure out what the percentage increase is?
So I believe it says, well, percentage-wise, I can't do it out of my head right
So the
now.
increase is 2.7 million.
Okay, thank you. Yes, that's
we
the
can go
dollar,
with that.
yes. What that is percentage-wise, I don't have my 10 key in front of me right now.
1.4.
Okay, 1.4.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. No further questions, Mayor.
Anybody else? Seeing none, again, I will move to approve Resolution 2023-173 as presented.
I second the motion.
Thank you. This will be a roll call vote. Councilman Roman?
Yes.
Councilman Baird?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bennett?
Yes.
Councilman Jackson?
Yes.
Councilman Merritt?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Next up is J3, considering adopting ordinance number 3815, accepting the tax year 2023 certification of appraisal roll in accordance with Section 26.04B of the State Property Tax Code, and to levy and adopt the tax rate for fiscal year 2023-24, tax year 2023, and take appropriate action.
So fourth step. So this is the one where we make another uncomfortable motion. And it's going to be, I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 5.69 or 0.569, and which is effectively a 21.11% increase in the tax rate. We're required to put that into the motion and take a roll call vote on that. We have shown that our property rate is actually going down 2 cents. But again, there's different calculations on how that is presented with some of the tax law. So the only slide that I have on this one is that tomorrow, September 20th, we are required to get to Dallas Central Appraisal District, DCAD, this signed certified tax appraisal roll. And that's all of the taxable value of real and business personal property, which is $9.28 billion in the city of Farmers Branch, and which of that, 171,000 represents new construction value. Pete's telling me something that I need to specify with the vote. It's a separate vote, correct? It's accepting the tax roll, and then there's,
That motion that you read out to him.
Okay.
And included in that, adoption of that ordinance.
an adoption of the ordinance. Okay. So accepting the certified tax roll.
No, your motion as you read,
Okay.
motion that's in your packet. And just
Do I
add,
have to read it?
I'm sorry?
Do I read it or?
Yeah, you can make the motion if you're ready.
Okay. All right. So I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.569 cents, which is effectively a 21.11% increase in the tax rate,
And adopt ordinance.
and adopt ordinance 3815.
Second.
Motion and second. This will be a roll call vote. Councilman Roman?
Yes.
Councilman Baird?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bennett?
Yes.
Councilman Jackson?
Yes.
Councilman Merritt?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And hopefully you won't see me for a little bit.
Okay. Next up is item J4, consider appointments to the Multicultural Task Force and take appropriate action.
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jeff Fairchild, Special Events Manager in the Parks and Recreation Department. And tonight is the final step in the process that we have initiated to select this new multicultural task force to help guide us, the department, the city, in the city's newest event coming up next year, our new multicultural event. We began this journey several months back with a presentation to council. I'm going to briefly go over that again with you all this evening, and then kind of walk through the process and how we have come to this evening, which will end with you all selecting your choices to be on this committee. So the purpose of this task force was to advise us on this new event that we're about to launch next year. These are some of the ideas, the topics, the things that this committee will help us in guiding us, and theme, programming, food, decor, all the things that comprise of a community cultural event. We will be meeting regularly at City Hall or a designated location. We will increase those frequency as it gets closer to the event. And then there's the option there for the sunsetting of the event should the council choose to do that at the end of next year's event. This task force will comprise of 3 city members, myself and the special events team there. And then you have up to 12 members of the community beyond that can also serve on this committee. It doesn't have to be 12, but it can be up to 12 at your discretion. And that's just a little bit of the background of what we put in place as far as what we were looking for to help guide you in your decision, resident, non-resident, just some of the things that we were looking for that we felt would best represent and reflect what this committee in order to be successful. So the process, as I mentioned earlier, we began this several months back where we went through the application process. We came up with some additional questions that we wanted to be included in there that were specific to this task force. There was an interview process, some additional questions were asked, and then the applications were turned in, they were vetted, and then about 2 weeks ago, you received those applications and the list of names. And so we said we'll be back here on September 19th to give you all the opportunity to look through those and to put forth your nominations. And so that's where we are at tonight. And so I open the floor up, I guess, for the selection process. Thank you. Any questions?
Council, any questions?
So there was some conversation that we were going to expand this and keep them so they could do other things in the lobby and not just this specific event. Is that true?
There was discussion, but nothing in a public forum yet, so just some ideas on potential uses for them beyond this one use. So the first goal would be to get them appointed at council's direction, and then if there's other opportunities to utilize them for more opportunities, I would highly encourage that as well.
Thank you.
Okay. So you have a list of the nominees or the applicants. If each council member will pick 2.
Mayor, may I make a suggestion to be, I've had opportunity to talk with city management on this particular idea, but I would like to propose an idea that we do 2 things. One, and they're both sort of radical, but please hear me out. One is I'd like to accept all of the folks that applied for the task force. By my count, that's 21 names that are on the list that I had. And that would allow all of those that in our community that expressed interest to have a seat at the particular table. That's the first item. The second would be bringing this group of 21 together in order to discuss what kind of multicultural event or events, plural, might be best suited for our community. I have had concerns, and I've stated this before, about hosting a singular event, not being broad enough to include all of the potential cultures that have interest or are represented in our community. I'm very cautious that we don't leave anyone out in a particular event. I know getting things started can sometimes, good intentions don't necessarily always manifest themselves in actions. There are other entities across the North Texas area, including Plano's Multicultural Outreach Roundtable, also often known as MCOR, that have been in this space for a number of years. They will be hosting their 19th annual event in October. I think we could learn from some other areas, including Capel and Allen, who have had these events before, and I know, Jeff, you're totally capable of interacting with those. But if we have these 21 applicants who have stated interest in them, in this event, and this process, come to the table, they can bring those ideas forward to us as a council, and what would be able to be manifested in itself at some point later down the road, whether that's a singular event or a series of perhaps quarterly events that might represent a singular culture at one time frame, which would allow whether it be dance troupes or singing groups or food vendors to focus on a singular one rather than having a full, broad plethora of that. Because getting the scheduling done, and I know that Jeff is challenged with this date that we've put out there of making that happen. So that would be my proposal, to accept all of the applicants and have them focus on what type of event or events our community would have, and not be bound by the March timeframe in 2024.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any other comments? Councilman Rome.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying about not wanting to exclude anybody, but whether we do one event or whether we have multiple events, you're inherently still excluding somebody, because we can't have 100 events for 100 identified cultures, but we can have one event where we can try to have the most number of people in it. I think it's the most cost-efficient way of doing it as well. Part of what we were trying to get away from, and part of what this council has already decided when this decision was made to create the multicultural event, was that there's an excessive amount of events that were going on that really weren't reflective of the entire population in Farmers Branch. And so we created this multicultural event, and you know, that was the council's decision at the time. And so I think let's just see how this goes. And maybe we learn some lessons, maybe we don't. Maybe we learn that this is the best thing that's ever happened, but we don't know until we try it. So rather than subvert the course that we're already in, I think let's just go with where we were going. And I think we've already set criteria that we're going to select a certain number of people into the committee, at the last minute trying to change plans. I think is reckless, because we have a very limited time to already put this together.
Interesting choice of words, if I may. Subvert and reckless. I don't believe that I was trying to subvert anything, nor do I believe I'm being reckless. I think that I'm trying to make sure that we have the voices who stepped up and volunteered at the table. And I think allowing them to have that opportunity is appropriate. And so it's a suggestion, and if it's met, fine. And if it's not, that's fine too. But it's not an attempt to subvert, and it's clearly not reckless, in my opinion. Thank you.
Right, and you were sharing your opinion about what you would like, and as somebody who sits on this dais, I certainly have my own opinion too, and I was only expressing it. We can agree to disagree.
Okay. So, when I look at this, of the applicants, almost 60% of them are Hispanic, and I think our goal when this discussion was first initiated was to try to achieve some representation from each segment of our community. And I can look at the list, and I know that there are at least a couple of people who are single-focused on creating one event for one particular group. And that causes me some heartburn. I think one way that we can get to maybe a happy median is to appoint a leadership committee, let's say, I'll call it leadership committee, with a subcommittee. And all those who don't get appointed to the leadership committee can then be placed on a subcommittee and give them the opportunity to work underneath that leadership committee to help provide their input as they so fit. Any thoughts, comments on that?
So if we did that, instead of each of us choosing, say, 2 from our district, we could choose 1 from our district, and then the others would just be on the subcommittee, kind of.
Well, as it stands right now, I don't know how you can choose from your district because there's no applicants from District 1.
I know.
And that presents a problem. You know, I have strived to try to make sure that every district is represented when we have committees, that we have equal representation across the city. And so not having anybody having applied that I'm aware of from District 1, that bothers me. And I don't know how we can have equal representation, especially when District 1 arguably has the most Hispanics in it. So, Councilman Jackson.
So, Mayor, one thing I'd just like to say is I really appreciate the residents and the applicants stepping up and going through the process. I appreciate the way that the interview and application process was carried out with the video interviews, watching a number of those. You know, I made different decisions between the paper applications and the video applications and trying to consider the whole picture. I appreciate the different approach. I want to respect the process, but I'm still not certain that we're in the right place yet to move this forward. And I don't mean to throw a wrench in the chain here, but we have a lot of great applicants. I don't expect that if you are of Hispanic culture applicant, that you're here to represent the Hispanic culture. I would expect that all of the members on this committee would try their best to engage all cultures within our city to be a part of this event. That's the idea. And I almost want to, and this thought came to me tonight in this discussion, given the applicants and the goal and the time frame, I almost want to just get away from multicultural and have a Farmers Branch Resident Appreciation Day or Farmers Branchite Day or whatever we call ourselves, and just be community, because isn't that what we're trying to achieve here? As part of what we're trying to achieve is to celebrate our one community. And with Councilman Merritt's idea, with the established process, I personally don't feel like this council's ready to move that forward.
Councilman Roman?
What would need to happen for you to feel that this council needed to move forward and be ready?
I'd like 24 more applicants. I'd like applicants from all districts represented. I didn't feel like we needed to pick 2 from our own district because I don't think in this setting it, I don't think districts matter. I don't think they should matter, but they do matter because, as Mayor mentioned, District 1 arguably has the most Hispanic population, but we had no applicants from District 1 apply. I don't have any miracle ideas here. I don't feel like we're ready. In that sense, if we go forward with the process as we have it now, I've got 2 picked out, and I'm ready to vote that and move forward. But inside, I'm not 100%.
So what would it look like, and you tell us, in getting this through to have the subcommittees? Is that going to help or hinder?
I think if those that truly have an interest in serving the community, if they did not get selected on the A team, so to speak, and they were on the subcommittee, that would be I don't know how they would feel about that. I hope they would still feel part of this and would.
Well, there's going to be attrition. I think we put 12 on charter and 9 consistently show up. So there's going to be attrition.
I would hope those would all want to have some part in this, even though they were not on the formal committee, I would hope.
To your point, attrition doesn't help us. When we have boards, we expect everybody to show. That's the purpose of having the board, so we have benefit of everybody's input. If somebody's not going to show for meetings, then they're not going to be a contributor. They're holding the whole organization back. I almost wish that we would, and let me just float this idea out there, that we would take a step back, have this discussion again at the next meeting, but what we can do is in study session, express preferences as we did for boards and commissions, and then come back and vote on that at the regular meeting time. Is that something that you all would be interested in doing?
What's the difference of doing that and voting now? I mean, I feel like we're not going to get any new applicants, right?
Well, you might. Who knows?
But the application deadline's closed.
Well,
so are we going to
you have
reopen
the
it?
power. You can control that. If somebody else wants to apply, I would gladly accept somebody's application, but that's not my decision. That's this body's decision.
So that's what I'm asking. Is that what we're doing? We're reopening applications. We're going to wait for their backgrounds to come back. We're going to interview them, do the whole process all over again. I mean, what's going to happen? Because we've got a deadline to meet to make sure that this event isn't rushed.
If I may, you bring up a very good point. I think if we're going to postpone this for another month, and Mike, I'm speaking on behalf of the department, I would hope that the council would give us the leeway to make that date of March 25th a flexible date. I think I would hope that would be given the opportunity.
I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
I think so. Compromise here. Can we vote on these and leave it and open it up for District 1 to apply? Since we have none from District 1?
Let me jump in for a second. You already passed a resolution establishing the committee, and it's up to 2 appointed by each council member, a total of 15. Jeff's staff and those that you all come up with. What you could do is, from the list that you have tonight, go ahead and fill those positions tonight, and then if you decide you want to increase the number or create some ad hoc committee, re-advertise, or other people show interest, then you can come back and amend that resolution to change that composition of the committee. Because right now, you have the committee composition set. And we don't have that resolution on here for amendment. We have you to fill those spots that you created previously. And then I'll be quiet.
So thank you, Pete.
12.
That's helpful for me to understand. We have a resolution in place that says 12.
Yeah, it's 12.
Unfortunately, we just had 19 applicants. And that's just what we have. So that means that 7 will not be chosen. And then if we want to change that later, we
We can do that.
we can do that. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, then working in that direction then, I'll start at my right and ask each council representative who they want to propose, who their two selections are. Councilman Merritt.
I focused in my district. I'd like to thank all of those that applied in my district. I had the opportunity to reach out and talk to each and every one of them. Based on what we're doing at this particular moment, I would select Mrs. Wong and Mrs. Buford.
Mayor, I select Quinn Mercado and Jana Hoffman.
Mayor, I select Mushir Mohammed and Jaime Rivas.
I select Rob Bliss. Did you say Kamal Mahesh?
No, not yet.
Okay, and Kamal Mahesh.
Okay.
Rob Bliss.
And I select Levent Unsall and Elizabeth Villafranca.
And who?
Levent Unsall and Elizabeth Villafranca.
Motion to approve. Do I, but I get to select? Okay. So I am going to, my selections are also Rob Bliss, who I will nominate as chair, and Carmen Grego. Everybody have those marked? I have a motion to approve. I'll make a motion to approve. What?
Are we short then? Because I thought Rob Bliss was already selected.
Yeah, that's 11.
There's 12.
11, okay.
12, there's 12 votes.
But 11 members.
11 members.
I selected Rob Bliss instead of.
I selected Rob Bliss also.
Right.
But do I need to pick somebody else?
You can if you want.
You can, you're not required to.
Okay.
And by the way, Mayor, that Jeff is, his team is ad hoc, non-voting members, and he's the functional chair of the committee, by according to the resolution.
Okay, I'm going to stick with where I'm at.
Okay.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve as they've been selected here.
Are we certain we don't want anyone out of District 2?
I don't know any of the three.
I didn't review them because they weren't my district.
Mayor, given the one additional spot that we have open, I'd like to propose to the council that we nominate Gianni Wang from District 5.
It's already been,
It's already been nominated.
Oh, it is?
yes.
Is that what you said? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
Councilman Baird, do you know any of the three applicants from District 2?
Not well enough, no.
Okay.
And Mayor, you can come back later meeting and
Then, yeah, so I would like to move forward with what we have, and then we can fill that remaining spot at a later date. So, does somebody make a motion to approve what we've done?
Mayor, I'll move to approve the appointments to the multicultural task as stated.
Second.
Motion and seconded. If you would, please mark your ballot accordingly. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Next up will be item J5, which moved over from the consent agenda, which was H6. Consider approving Resolution 2023-212, authorizing the city manager to execute a professional services agreement with MET Innovations LLC, DBA Meredith Dowdy, in the amount of $10,000 per month to provide consulting services for the tourism department and take appropriate action.
Yes, I am here to answer any questions about the contractor's contracts. I can start with some quick facts, or we can start with questions.
Does anybody have questions for Ms. Cook?
I have some questions.
Okay.
Thanks for coming down and helping us understand a little bit of this. I think initially when looking at the agenda and seeing the change from last year to this year,
Yes.
there can be understandably some concern from the public about the significant increases from last year to this year. I think there was one, let's see, which one was it? So can you tell us a little bit about Nancy? Because I think there was
We're not talking about Nancy, we're talking about H6 which is Meredith Dowdy.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do you want to just maybe provide an overview of the team?
Yes, would that be helpful?
Is that permissible, Mayor?
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you for asking. You know, tourism is the outside sales arm, so they're not always seen, so I appreciate the question. And they function as a team, so that's why my staff notes, I wrote a lot about the tourism team collectively, because one person can do their job, but our tourism team, all three work together to accomplish the goal, because the goal is too large for one person. So we have Nancy, she is a graphic arts designer. She's sitting over there in the corner. And she also helps with all of our servicing, all the collateral. So we go by Discover Farmers Branch in the tourism department. So all the social media, Discover Farmers Branch, is run out of this department. And so all of the collateral, the T-shirts y'all receive, the good things that you see out in the public, those are all the Discover Farmers Branch visitor-centric, spent and funded by the Hotel Occupancy Tax Fund.
Okay.
So the team functions bringing in large room nights, bringing in large groups, and we track those with the internal paperwork. So we know exactly how many room nights that the team has influenced.
Okay. And does this team help with all of the events that generate hotel motel funds, or just specific ones?
The specific ones that we influence, that we track.
Okay. Are there certain ones that they don't participate in? And if so, what are those?
Do you mean, are there certain groups that come to this city that we don't know
Yeah,
about?
like is there somebody else that works on those events? Are there any others like that?
Well, we're aware of the groups that we bring in because we probably got them from other cities. And I can't say all of our secret sauce, but we do go and grab groups from other places. And then when we bring them in, we also provide servicing efforts. So you might see welcome banners and things at the different hotels. Ann Stokes, typically, if she's bringing a group in and they're considering coming to this city, she'll do a group tour with the hotels after we kind of know what they're looking for. So we'll have the general manager or the sales arm ready, and then they will tour them around. So that could be kind of a full half day of trying to figure out which property fits their needs. And then we do other things to help them land here.
Okay. And can you talk a little bit about their interaction with other staff members, right? I believe there's some coordination that's involved.
Yes.
Because it's a team that may not be as fully up in your face because they're kind of behind the scenes. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the projects that involve other
Sure.
staff?
Yeah, thank you. So tourism team, two of them used to be parks full-time employees. And so they work with our existing park staff. They've known them for a long time. And our park staff helps with the portion of our sports clients. So our large groups, Dallas International Girls Cup, and we have a lot of groups that travel throughout, and they bring hundreds and thousands of room nights in. and they continue to come, but they continue to come because we make it really hard for them not to come back. And so those are some of the reasons why in some of the groups.
Okay, so if I'm.
And I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
let me finish answering. I didn't think it through. We'll work with the parks team. We'll ask them to help get some of our fields ready. Cox is a perfect example. And they will go out, and Parks does incredible service for us. They're really helpful. Finance team, they meet with us during the year, so we're tracking Hot Fund and Perla and her team. They give us the monthly reports, and we have to comb through the monthly reports that come in from all the different hotels with the comptroller.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I'm kind of trying to summarize and understand the scope of work, they deal with really anything having to do with putting people in our hotels.
Heads and Beds is the local.
And events that may attract people to our city, as well as any other sporting like soccer or like the pickleball.
Yes, the pickleball is huge. Corporate client, though, the corporate travel came back after COVID quite strongly. And then our team has gone after certain companies that we know were here but not using our hotels. And we have influenced them to use our hotels. So it's corporate travel and it's the sports travel.
Okay.
And we only help those with heads and beds. So we don't assist just a group that's here. We assist a group that has a hotel component.
Got it. Okay. And then to my understanding, there's also an agreement to where when we bring a team, if like, let's say a soccer team wants to come and have a tournament here, or a soccer group wants to come and have a tournament here, they will assist them with securing rooms here in Farmers Branch, and they have to meet a certain minimum requirement. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
And how many hotel nights does your team in tourism bring in? per
This
year?
past fiscal year, we've exceeded about 24,000 room nights for the year that we've influenced, that we track with what's called pickup reports in the industry. And if you use an average daily rate of 129 during the weekend and 200 during the week for corporate travel, which we're pulling in a little bit, you have over $270,000 coming into the Hot Fund directly from the efforts of Meredith and Ann, influenced by all the collateral Nancy creates.
Okay. Now, when I was reviewing Meredith's contract, since we're talking about that one for now, were there any escalators built in? And what I mean by escalators is, were there any pay increases built into that contract?
For this upcoming fiscal year? Oh, thank you for asking. So right now, the one on the agenda for this future fiscal year is a 3-year contract. The council can review it at each budget cycle, but during the 3-year, there's no escalators built in.
So they're
So it's-
essentially making the same amount of money year 1,
Exactly.
year 2, and year 3.
So as we thought about, instead of a 1-year, a 3-year, they had to think about the scope of services that we know for the next 3 fiscal years that we know would be coming, and what is a decent increase when you know you can't go and renegotiate for 3 more years.
Mm-hmm. Was that the only factor that that was the reason for such a significant increase, or were there any other factors that were considered? Because I did receive some feedback from
Right.
the public about just the significant increase.
Right. So we did increase our clients, which is, our own fault. We're our own problem, right? So we bring in more people to serve and bring back and retain. So we have that component. Then we also have a component called pickleball, which is super fun. It's wonderful. Everyone's going to love that national pickleball. But the behind-the-scenes work that the tourism department is doing, Meredith Dowdy specifically that we're talking about right now, she's what we call our city liaison to the PPA, the Pickleball Professional Association. The PPA is the group, and they are putting on the tournament, but it's with significant city help through the tourism department. Help
Okay.
meaning hours.
Now, the way that the contract is written at this moment that we're considering, that will allow us to, for any reason, review next year and determine if there's any change that's
Correct.
necessary. Okay.
Correct.
So it's not tying our hands for the next 3 years.
Right, it doesn't tie your hands. You can pull every budget cycle and say, what happened this fiscal year, and discuss it.
And have we looked at other cities and how they structure this specific team in those cities?
Yes, so each city functions so differently. So our Discover Farmers Branch brand, you'll find other brands. You'll find Visit Dallas is a brand, and you'll find a lot of them go by Visit whatever. You have Grapevine, Frisco, Plano, and the salaries are within range. The salaries in those cities are within range of the contractor pay that we have here. So for the contractors here, they used to be full-time employees. You used to get the TMRS and the benefits package and things of that nature and health insurance. So now they have to pay all of that themselves. So there's no benefits, and that's just part of tourism. Tourism was always contractor-based. We never had full-time positions in tourism. So after we've always filled vacancies, it's always only been a contract position offered.
Okay. And do we have measurable goals or something that measures performance of the contractors as they do their jobs?
We do. Anne was supposed to bring in 17,000 room nights last year, and she did not. She brought in over 24,000. So she keeps herself busy. And then was the year before you're supposed to bring in 12? Or you were supposed to bring in 12 and you brought in 24. So she's her own enemy. So she brings in all of these clients and then we have to like help them and service them. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. I think I'm satisfied with my answers for this one. Thank you.
Okay. My mistake earlier, since all three contracts are essentially the same in terms of form, we can address all of that. So if you have other questions.
I do.
Okay.
So, and I believe the same answer to many of these questions are the same for all of them.
Correct.
So I do have one particular question. I think there was much more of a significant increase when you compare there's two $10,000 a month consulting service contracts, and then there's one for $6,779, and that one was a more significant increase from a percentage perspective. And I believe what I learned is that, can you tell us a little bit about the reason for that? I think there was some billing that wasn't being done, and tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, that's Nancy's contract. And so Nancy's contract had a lump sum, and then she was taking additional work on outside the scope. And
she was not being paid for that,
she was not being compensated properly for it. And she just didn't say no to work, is what the problem was. And so around April, we remedied that. And so from April till now, she's properly compensated. So in the new contract, you will see her scope of services. So she initially started more part-time, and then it just kept ramping up because her availability was ramping up. And quite honestly, our workload's just wrapping up.
And whenever she was getting paid the actual amount for the work she was actually doing from April to, I guess now.
Yes.
What does that monthly billing look like?
$6,700 approximately.
Which is about the same amount as what is being
Correct.
requested in this contract?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Baird? No? Anybody over here? Councilman Jackson?
Mayor, I'm going to repeat a few things that I said upstairs just for the benefit of those that are watching tonight. And I'm going to assume that each of us council members in our meetings with the city manager and such have probably had some similar questions, because on the surface, you get three contracts all of a sudden worth $320,000 for, these types of services, and red flags go up, and they should. That's our job.
Right.
But this is an $81,000 a year increase across all three
Right.
performance contracts. And as you mentioned, other cities have contractors or employees, but they have a brand, right? And that's the focus, is our brand and connecting that brand
Right.
to people and bringing people to Farmers Branch.
Right.
These folks under these contracts have served Farmers Branch for a long time.
They have.
Whether as employees or contractor, they are connected to our city.
Yes, that's part of our success, is they have the built relationships over 2 decades.
Right. I think it's important
Right.
for
I agree.
residents to understand that, we didn't go, find our contractors through
Right.
a search firm.
Nope.
These are people that we are naturally attached to. These three folks alone are responsible for client retention and attraction. And in the last year, under their old contract amount, which was what, 240,000 roughly for the three. They were responsible for an increase of $600,000+
Yes,
in our
incremental increase, yes.
heads and beds.
Yes, sir.
Right, okay. Not a bad return.
Not a bad
Frankly.
return, and the indirect return to the sales tax fund is on top of that, and it's hard to measure, but our economic impact says about 5.5 million.
Right. These folks not only are, they have a hotel room night or 2 or 3 or more,
Yes,
but they're stopping in at Starbucks, they're going to the restaurants, they're running up to Walmart real
Yes.
quick to grab the sunscreen and the water
They are.
bottles and the ice. And
they are.
there's a lot of other money coming into our city revenue
Yes,
that we can't realistically or precisely
Right.
put our fingers on. But needless to say, the productivity from the performance of these contracts is well worth the price that we're asking for tonight. And has it been 3 years since they were last negotiated?
no,
Other than-
each budget cycle, we review it.
Okay, all right. I thought I saw in here in one of them, one of the contracts, there hadn't been an increase since 2020.
Oh, yeah, there might not be an increase for some at different years, and then during 2020, there was a 0% increase, just simply because it was COVID.
Right.
But you're right, it is impossible to replicate the talent that we have on staff, just
Sure.
because the generational contacts.
Right. And again, this cost doesn't come from our tax dollars. It comes
Right.
from hotel,
Visitors. Yes.
motel fund.
Yes,
right?
visitors.
Okay. Very good. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for asking.
Councilwoman.
Thank you for everything. So the key performance indicators that
Yes.
we spoke about upstairs, you
Yep.
do those weekly and monthly.
Right.
And the contracts are technically, they can be canceled at any time if they don't meet said KPIs.
True.
Okay,
That's
just so the
true.
residents understand.
Yeah.
Allison and staff, I thank you guys for all that you've done. I've actually, and the mayor and I have traveled with you guys and saw what you did with the Professional Pickleball Association. So I think the comments that my peer here to my left has made regarding the generation of the dollars is paramount in that this is a great return for our dollars.
Right.
The previous contracts, as I read them, had a 5% escalator
Right.
in those as well. The new contracts we've already discussed have no escalator over this period as
Correct.
well. Obviously, we're adjusting for the particular rate and the market that we're in. So I'm very comfortable with what's being proposed. The delta is small it's small in comparison to what we're generating. So I think it's important that we support this endeavor going forward. So thank you. I'd be happy to make a motion, Mayor, and
You can
I
do
guess
all
I'll
three.
look
You can
down.
do all three.
We can do all three, thank you. So if I find the right,
Just say J5, 6, and 7.
I will do that, sir, thank you. I make a motion that we approve items J5, J6, and J7 as presented. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We have motion and second. If you would, please cast your vote accordingly. Motion passes 4-1. Thank you. Next up is our citizen comments. I have one person signed up to speak, and that would be Tom Cusick.
So you'll have to forgive me because I asked how I can send this down electronically and I was told to print it out. So here we are, doing the old school method here. Thank you.
That's quite all right.
Okay, so address, yeah. Tom Cusick, 13901 Midway Road, Farmers Branch 75244. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about tonight is just a few things that's come up to us. A few years ago, my company was challenged with the task of, we said, hey, you guys build a lot of McMansions, if you will. We'd also like to see you develop and invest in other parts of the community, which we have since done. At this point in time, Mr. Barrett, in District 2, we have a property that's currently sitting that we completed construction on probably in April. I have 2 rental properties on either side. One of those is the first picture that you have there. That is a rental property that's sitting next door to me. As of right now, that is not, that is code compliant. You can barely even see the front of the house. I've had 32 showings on my property, and 30 of them have said they would not be interested in purchasing in Farmers Branch because of the street and the surrounding properties. So as City Council challenged me a few years ago to be able to invest in other parts of the area, I am in turn going to challenge you guys to help clean up the community. As Mr. Jackson said earlier, if you go through the first page there, that was a short one, so I got to remind myself here. But we had, the first picture you see there is a property that's overgrown. There are trees growing throughout the front of the home. Right now, the current egress for fire, I don't think anybody could actually get out of the bedroom windows because there are trees growing, blocking the windows for somebody to actually escape if there is a fire. This is a rental property. The landlord is refusing to do anything to it and instead has gone to social media to trash our company saying we're abusive neighbors. And look what they've got next door. The second picture that you see is the property that we've built next door that we currently have for sale. As I've stated, we have 32 showings, and 30 of those, which I can produce that feedback for. If you guys want to reach out to me, I'm happy to follow up with you as well, showing that. Beyond that, you can see currently we have, trying to think of my order here, there's another property here on Pebble Beach that's been boarded up for 3+ years with no end in sight for what's going to happen there. Currently we have vehicles sitting on Brookhaven Club Drive covered up with tarps. This happens all throughout our community, and apparently somebody thinks, well, if we just cover up the junk vehicle or vehicle that's not running, that's allowable by the city. This last photo here is a camper that when we moved within Farmers Branch, and that has been sitting in that driveway since September of 2019 and has never moved. And it's time for our city to come up with a solution to be able to do something about inoperable vehicles, campers sitting in driveways, campers sitting on streets, boats sitting in driveways, boats sitting on streets. All of this should be not allowed. Mr. Jackson, you spoke earlier about our brand, and we have the Pickleball Association National Tournament coming here. And is this what we want our brand to look like to everybody that comes in and drives into our neighborhood and community where they see junk cars sitting around, overgrown property, unusable covered vehicles? And so as I was challenged a few years ago by City Council, and by the way, this is not allowed in surrounding communities. I know there was a point in time when they said that this was. It is not. I have personally made those phone calls. So I would like to challenge council to come up with a way to be able to clean this up as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I do not have anybody else signed up to speak. So seeing that, we've concluded our business. I will adjourn our meeting at 7:58. Thank you.